There's a plate in front of you. Just one piece of food left. And before you've even decided anything, before your conscious mind has weighed in at all, you hear your own voice say it. Do you want half of this? You do it without thinking. The way you breathe. The way you blink. Now, watch what actually happened there. You had food. In your possession. Yours. And your first instinct, faster than thought, was to give part of it away. To a body that is not your own. Sit with that for a moment. Because for almost every other animal on Earth, that instinct just doesn't exist. Cannot exist. It would have been bred out of them a million generations ago. You're looking at one of the strangest things our species does. And you do it so often. You've stopped being able to see it. Which raises a strange question. How did one of the hungriest, most self-interested animals that has ever lived, an animal that starves, that hoards, that competes, become the most compulsively generous creature on the planet? An animal that gives its food away, on purpose, to people it's not even related to? The answer runs back more than 2 million years. And it's still running. Right now. Inside you. Start with your closest living relative, the chimpanzee. You share almost all of your DNA with them. So if generosity were simply built into the primate brain, you'd expect to see it there. You do not. Chimpanzees mostly don't share. When a chimp gets hold of something valuable, meat, honey, a large piece of fruit, the default is to keep it. To eat it alone. Fast. While the others watch. And when they do let food go, look closely at why. Researchers studying the chimpanzees at GOM found that a chimp holding meat will often surrender a scrap to a beggar. Not out of kindness, but to make the begging stop. The scientific name for this is almost insulting in its honesty. Tolerated theft. You're not sharing. You're paying someone to leave you alone. There's one more pattern. And it's darker. Among chimpanzees, meat usually ends up in the hands of the dominant males. And they use it. A piece of carcass becomes a bribe, traded for support in a fight, or for a chance to mate. That is not generosity. That is a transaction. Backed by muscle. So, sharing isn't just automatic in the primate line. In our closest cousins, it's rare. Grudging. And mostly about power. And here's where it gets strange. Because true food sharing, the real thing, given freely, even between animals that aren't family, does exist in nature. It's just almost nowhere. And one of the clearest examples on Earth is not a primate at all. It's a bat. Back in 1984, a biologist named Gerald Wilkinson published a study in the journal Nature on the common vampire bat. Vampire bats live on a knife edge. They feed on blood. And if one fails to feed for just 2 nights in a row, it dies. It simply runs out of energy and dies in the dark. But they have a way out. A bat that has fed well will find a hungry roostmate and bring up part of its own meal, a warm gift of blood, mouth to mouth. And Wilkinson found something that should not be there. The bats most likely to give were the ones who had been given to before. They remembered. They kept a kind of running account. Not family. Not blood loyalty. Reciprocity. I feed you tonight, so that you will feed me. On the night I come home empty. Hold on to that idea. Feeding someone tonight, so they'll feed you later. Because it's about to explain almost everything about your own kind. Picture this. It's dusk. Somewhere on an open savanna. Tens of thousands of years ago, a hunter walks back toward a scatter of low shelters, and across his shoulders is the body of a large animal he brought down after a day of tracking. He's exhausted. He's starving. He carried this meat for miles. By every logic of survival, it is his. He gives almost all of it away. This is not a fantasy. It's one of the most consistent findings. In the study of living hunter-gatherers, anthropologists who spent years with the Ache of Paraguay and the Highway of Venezuela, among them Michael Gervin, now at the University of California, Santa Barbara, documented it again and again. The man who makes the kill is very often the one who eats the least of it. The meat flows outward to the whole camp, to families that gave nothing to that particular hunt. Frank Marlowe, an anthropologist who spent decades with the Hadza of Tanzania, saw the same thing. Among the Hadza, a large animal is barely the hunter's property at all. The moment it comes into camp, it belongs to everyone. And there's a name for the rule underneath it. Anthropologists call it demand sharing. You don't wait to be offered. If you have, and I need, I can simply ask. And you are expected to give. To a modern mind raised on ownership. This sounds like a system that punishes the hardest worker. But look at what it's actually doing. A hunter cannot rely on his own success. One day he brings home a whole animal. The next week, nothing. Meat rots. You can't save it. You can't put it in a bank. So your ancestors found a different bank. Other people. Think about the math of a single large kill. One family cannot possibly eat all of it before it spoils in the heat. Left alone, most of that animal is simply wasted. But given away, none of it is wasted at all. Every piece handed to another camp becomes a small debt. Quietly remembered, waiting to be repaid on the day your own hunt fails. You give your surplus away today, not because you are a saint, but because it buys you a claim on someone else's surplus tomorrow. The successful hunter is not being generous with his meat. He is storing it in the bodies and the memories and the debts of everyone around him. The same running account the vampire bat keeps, just deeper and far more human. And here is the part that should stop you completely. This is old. Much older than the Hadza. Older than our species. In 1978, an archaeologist named Glyn Isaac looked at some of the oldest sites our ancestors ever left behind. Places in East Africa, like Oldoway Gorge in Tanzania, and Kubifora in Kenya, sites reaching back roughly 2 million years. Decades earlier, Mary Leakey had carefully mapped these ancient living floors. And what they held was strange. Stone tools in one spot, and with them, the broken, cut-marked bones of many different animals, gathered together in a single place. Isaac asked the obvious question, why are these bones here? An animal killed out on the open plain does not walk itself into a neat pile. Someone carried it, piece by piece. Someone brought the food back to one central place. And, Isaac argued, divided it there. He gave the idea a plain name, the home base. And he suggested that this one act, carrying food home to share it, was among the things that started turning an ape into us. Now, to be fair, other scientists pushed back hard for years afterward. Some argued these were not safe home bases at all, but dangerous spots where early humans snatched what they could and fled. That debate still isn't fully settled. But underneath all of it, one physical fact holds. The food was moved. It was carried away from where it died to somewhere it could be broken down among a group. And the cut marks on those bones, studied closely by researchers like Henry Bunn, show us the tools that did the dividing. 2 million years ago, something in our line was already refusing to simply eat where it stood. It was carrying dinner home. Picture it. A small band, near a shrinking waterhole, under a sun that will not change for another 100,000 years. One of them drags a heavy leg bone back across the dirt. Not to a private corner. Not off into the grass to eat in secret. To the one place where the others are waiting. And there, with a sharp flake of stone, the meat comes away from the bone in strips. And the strips pass from hand to hand to hand. No words we would recognize. No rule written down anywhere. Just the oldest agreement our kind ever made. Asterisk, we eat together, or we do not. Last star. So, come back to your own plate. That last piece of food. And the voice that offered half. Before you could think. That reflex is not manners. It's not really something your parents taught you. It's the surface of something almost unimaginably deep. You come from an unbroken line of animals who survived. Precisely because they did not eat alone. The ones who hoarded. Who kept it all. Who ate in the shadows like a chimp with a scrap of meat. Their line tended, over enough hard winters and empty hunts, to thin out and vanish. The ones who gave it away. Who fed the camp. Who kept the account open, those are the ones who lived long enough to become your ancestors. Notice how it feels to eat in front of someone who has nothing. That small flicker of discomfort. That pull to offer. That is not weakness. That is 2 million years of survival strategy. Still switched on. Still running quietly. Inside a body that no longer needs it. The way it once did. You were built for a world where the only way to store food was to give it away. Where your full stomach today was an investment in someone else's hands, feeding you tomorrow. That world is mostly gone. The instinct is not. Your generosity is older than your language, older than your species. It is one of the oldest things about you. Sit with that for a moment. If you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. We make videos like this one about ancient human behavior, about what your body still remembers, about the gap between the world you were built for and the one you actually live in. If that is something you want more of, hit subscribe. Costs you nothing. And it tells the algorithm this kind of storytelling is worth keeping alive. See you in the next one.